Ever feel like you're your own worst enemy? Like you want connection but keep pushing people away? Well, today, we're diving into a book that's all about that feeling. We're talking about Fyodor Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, a novel that basically invented the psychological deep dive and gives us one of literature's most unforgettable and, frankly, most messed up characters. The Underground Man. So, who is this guy? The book kicks off with him introducing himself in the most self-deprecating way possible. He calls himself sick, spiteful, and unattractive. Right from the get-go, we know we're in for a ride. This isn't a story about a hero. It's a raw, unfiltered confession from a man who has spent his life feeling isolated, resentful, and completely out of step with the world. He's living in a shabby little apartment in St. Petersburg, what he calls his underground, completely cut off from society. And from this dark corner, he decides to write down his thoughts and memories, trying to make sense of why he is the way he is. The novel is split into two parts, and they're very different. Part 1, called Underground, is basically a long, philosophical rant. The narrator shares his worldview, and it's a pretty bleak one. He attacks the popular ideas of his time, like the belief that science, reason, and self-interest will lead to a perfect society. He argues that humans are irrational, unpredictable creatures. We don't always do what's best for us. Sometimes, we choose pain and suffering just to prove we have free will. He famously says that even if you could prove with math that 2 + 2 = 4, a person might still insist it equals 5, just to assert their independence and defy logic. This is the core of his philosophy. He believes that the most important thing to a human being is the freedom to choose, even if that choice leads to self-destruction. He talks about his past as a low-level civil servant, a job he hated. He was filled with bitterness towards his colleagues and the world in general. This constant feeling of being overlooked and insignificant led him to retreat entirely. He inherited a small sum of money, quit his job, and has been stewing in his underground for 20 years. Now, at 40 years old, he's looking back, and he tells us he is going to share a couple of stories from his youth that still haunt him. Stories that he thinks will explain everything. This brings us to part 2, titled, Apropos of the Wet Snow. This is where the abstract ideas from part 1 get played out in real life, and it gets messy. The tone shifts from philosophical rambling to a cringeworthy narrative of his past failures. The first story he tells is about an officer. It seems so minor, but for the Underground Man, it was a huge deal.